Hello, and welcome to another mini solo episode. The most common training mistakes that I see most women make, the biggest mistake is intensity and effort. Many people think that they are training really hard and very well could be training really hard. There's a difference between training hard and effective, productive effort. It can feel really hard. For example, if you show up to the session and you're not really well fueled, that can feel like a really hard session if you're pushing yourself. And you could have a shit ton of volume and a bunch of exercises, reps and sets, etc., etc. That can feel like you're training really freaking hard. But you could also be not taking enough rest periods, and that could feel really hard. So we need to make sure that the program that you're actually doing first is effective. No matter how many grams of protein you eat or how consistent you are with your training, you still will not see the results that you want without training hard enough. You need to force change to happen. Now, granted, you will see some changes at first, regardless of how hard you're training, but after a few months, this is kind of why people stay stuck in a cycle, because whatever they do, regardless of how crazy it is, how poor programming it is, or anything ineffective, not something I would recommend, trying to use kind terms, you'll see results at first always, because anything new gets results. But then that's when things slow down and change. So it could actually start regressing you, because if you're overtraining and under recovering, most people don't overtrain. It's more so training more than you can recover from. Your ability to recover then isn't there. So you're not really building muscle, and your body will stay in an overly stressed state, which impacts so many other things like sleep, your activity outside of the gym, the way your body uses food and fuel and protein. There'll be more insulin resistance from that level of stress that you're putting upon yourself. So it really does matter how you train, because without that intensity, you're not going to see the changes, especially in your legs. And legs are the hardest things to train to that intensity. Women struggle most with legs because you guys underestimate your strength. There's so much more in the tank for you. It's just that it really freaking hurts and it's uncomfortable. And many times we worry about our form. Many of us have niggles like in our knees, in our hips, in our backs. We need to really get our form down pat. And like I mentioned at the beginning, we need to get those foundations in check. And it can feel like we're wasting time and it's taking too long, but the longer that you spend on those training foundations, the higher the peak, the more bricks you can stack. And that is what creates change. It's just getting used to it until your legs adapt over time to tolerate it. And you'll eventually find a way to get excited about it, because it feels really freaking good to realize that you pushed yourself a little bit more. And maybe you won't always be able to push yourself to that tipping point, but it's still going to be really effective stimulus. You're pretty damn close by then, and you know what failure feels like. Whereas most women don't know what failure feels like. And many times it's also using the wrong exercises that don't allow for it. Like it challenges your grip or your balance, or you don't have a really good aerobic base, aka cardio base. So your heart gives out before anything else. Things like Bulgarian split squats, Romanian deadlifts, squats in general on the Smith machine because it's stable, pendulum squat, hack squat, belt squat, walking lunges. Always use straps, like always use straps. Then you can actually push the intensity and effort so much more, and you can focus on the muscles. Film your sets so you can actually see if you're hitting technique and proper depth. And sometimes you'll be able to tell if you're lifting heavy enough, because if that last rep still moved pretty smooth and fast, then pretty sure you had more in the tank. Mistake number 2, too much volume. Don't just add more for the sake of more. I'm not seeing results, so I think more is better. That can actually take you away from where you want to be. And if all you do is beat your legs, I'm going to use legs as an example here. All you do is beat your legs to the ground with excessive volume, thinking it will lean them out. Not only is that probably going to lead to more fat gain over time. And the reason I say that is because that is definitely going to impact your metabolism through the day, because you're going to be a lot more lethargic. You're not going to, like, without even realizing, you're not going to move as much. You're going to be sore, poor recovery, fatigue, etc., etc. And if your legs aren't adapting and recovering, you're not going to build back stronger. But I do want to caveat that with also saying sometimes you will be sore and still train sore, and that's okay. It's just you don't want such excessive soreness that it debilitates you. Although at the start of new programs or pushing yourself, that's going to be a normal thing. It's going to be really hard to do that if you're not eating enough protein to help with recovery. Or if you're not eating enough food, it's so much more likely you're not going to be recovering or training as hard as you could, even though it feels like you are, which is usually why my whole motto is you cannot deficit on a physique. Physique enhancement does not happen if you spend more time deficiting than you do not deficiting / dieting. Like you need to spend a longer period of time away from deficits. Don't do it for every summer. Instead of doing more, you really need to focus on quality over quantity. And the other side of the spectrum is when people feel like everything's going really well, more will make it go more well. More will make it increase the progress. I was like, okay, this is going really awesome. I'm going to add more. I can do more. I'm seeing progress. So this will build even more muscle, even faster. You cannot, sadly, I really wish you could. Honestly, I wish you could. You can't force train muscle on. Like you can't train it on faster. You also can't eat more protein and protein it on fast. And more leg days aren't better either. Like I see a lot of people saying I can only do 3 leg days a week, or how often should you train legs? Like honestly, don't go doing glutes every single day. I would say that if you're doing some form of glutes or legs every single day, unless you're on a full body program and it's programmed smart, you're not training hard enough. But if you're smashing out your legs, well, there's a shit ton of volume of legs on every single day, you're doing it wrong. More is not better. Better is better. So number 3 is actually one of my favorites. I use a lot with my clients, and as soon as they start doing this, they see record results. Warm-up sets. Do as many as you need to do to get up to your working weight, especially for legs, especially for big movements. A lot of people skip this because they don't understand how to do them, and they think that it takes up a lot of time. But it doesn't. You don't need to rest between sets when it comes to warm-ups. You just need to rest as long as it takes for you to put the next weight on the bar for the next warm-up. Give it its time and make sure you treat every single rep like it is a working set. Give it the time it needs in the pause. If you have mobility issues, throw that in between your sets. I used to do 90-90s, the hip switch. You can YouTube that. In between every single set of my deadlift and squats. I was already meant to rest 3 to 5 minutes between my working sets. But then again, this is also very dependent on you and what you need. Usually, the more advanced you get, the less that you need in terms of sets. But please don't skip your warm-up sets. Put your effort into making those working sets true working sets. If you have 2 sets, they better freaking count. If you have 3 sets, those better freaking count. A simple program on paper should never be easy in the gym. It's easy in the gym if you are not pushing yourself to failure or doing your warm-up sets. Now, the next one is not having a plan, especially for legs, because with your legs, you want to have meat and potato exercises that expand over months, that go over months, because you want to be progressing in those moves over time. Your legs are the biggest muscle group. They are the hardest to change. You need to force change in that. So if you're always changing your exercises, you're not giving your body enough time to adapt to that, and then to progress on that, and then to build muscle tissue. First, strength is going to go up. And then after about a few weeks of learning the skill and getting your brain to fire properly, that's when the muscle then starts to build a little. And every single time you're fighting for that extra rep and you're going to fail, you're making those little micro tears. And when you make those little micro tears, it's going to have to build back. And it's not the muscle damage that builds the muscle, it's the mechanical tension. We don't aim for just whatever weight we're using on the bar or the dumbbells. Your muscles don't know that. You could drop the weight and still be progressing, because your muscles only send tension. The more tension that you put on the muscle, the greater the stimulus for change. You can't force progressive overload. When you have a plan, you're sure of where you're going. And when you have a proper plan that's made by someone, you're going to actually have it progressing with you and not just a random program thrown at you every 4 to 6 weeks. Find ways to enjoy yourself outside of the gym. Use the gym as a means of bettering yourself, getting better, and find things that excite you. Get excited about doing pull-ups, squats, RDLs, I get excited about the burn that I feel in my shoulders. I don't even know how many reps I do. All I know is that I use the 5 kilos, the 4 kilos, and the 3 kilos, depending on the day. Get excited about feeling your muscles and making them work and pausing and chasing that, knowing that that is what's going to lead to the results. It's powerful when you can put so much of your effort into this training effectively stuff, because it takes your focus away from the shit that doesn't actually do anything for you right now in the short term, like the scale, like hyperfixating on how full you feel after carb. If you're doing the things that you need to do for the results that you want in maintenance, you're going to see changes happen in your body. And if you're in a deficit, stop focusing on fat loss, stop focusing on the scale as well. Focus on doing the best you can to keep your performance there. If you're not keeping your performance there, you could most likely be losing muscle, and then your deficit won't be a deficit anymore, and you're just going to look softer over time. Another mistake that a lot of people make, they change their training program when they want to lose weight, or they don't put in as much effort, or they add in extra things thinking that it's going to lead to leaner muscle or leaning out faster, or they want to add in cardio straight away. It's like, no, you already have less recovery sources. You're going to put those recovery sources into cardio, into HIIT, into extra training that you're not going to be able to recover from. So the quality of your other stuff's going to go down. How are you expecting to build muscle? You'll be ruining your metabolism even more than what I stated. Because now your sleep's going to be impacted. Your cortisol is going to be at a much higher chronic level. This shit matters. The more that we can get you not even thinking about your next lean up phase or your diet, the better off you'll be in so many ways. It's insane what can happen when you allow yourself to do that. No more random workouts. No more just going through the motions. Start putting more focus into your training, and you'll be amazed at what can change. But you just need to give yourself time. That's not going to happen if you rush the process. Misunderstanding progressive overload. People prioritize PRing the weight book, getting that extra rep, the extra kilo over proper technique and range of motion. And those reps aren't the same. It's a completely different exercise. Or you're shifting the attention to other muscles. You need to focus on keeping a standardized form and then hitting that over the reps and the sets, and just showing up to beat your best. You may not beat it, but if you show up with the intent, that is called effective training. And that is what matters there. There's also progress. Well, people that approach progress in terms of, okay, well, I'm going to do 6 reps this week and then 7 next week and then 8 and then 9. That isn't progressive overload. Like, don't aim for reps. So many people use rep ranges wrong. It's not, okay, well, it says get 6 to 8 reps. So I'm just going to pick a load and then train to the 6 reps and leave it there because I don't want to go to 8 reps. Like, those last 2 reps need to be so freaking hard that you grind out that last rep and it is slow as hell. That's what it should look like for most movements. If the last rep looks like the first rep, I would challenge you to try harder. But that doesn't mean breakdown in form. I mean, it should be slowing down. It should have some form of like shaky grindiness and some faces that you're making. Like, don't be afraid to do that. It's freaking like badass when you start to have so much more confidence and own your energy and space in the gym. Like, own it. It's not a rigid system. It's literally just showing up to do your best. And it's not the plan. The plan isn't to progressively overload. It's the outcome of getting your programming in check, making sure it's effective, like I said, doing your warm-up sets, setting up everything to ensure that those working sets count. And when you make those working sets count, over time, there will be strength going up, muscle going up. That's the outcome that we want. We want muscle and strength. That's physique enhancement, because strength, stronger is leaner, and stronger leads to some muscle growth. And that's the look that we want. We want that leaner look. But you don't get that changing our workouts all the time because we're not seeing the weights go up, because it's very normal to then see hardly any progress by week 6. The longer that you've been doing this, the slower your progress is going to be. That's the hard part for so many people, because we're going to have more meth days and average days the longer that you've been training. And that's normal. It's very, very normal. You will see a lot of progress real fast when you're new to it. And then you'll still see pretty fast progress. But if you're always relating your best to when you first started and then trying to match that all the time, that's when we start to do ourselves a doozy. and spin wheels. So I hope that helps, because the question shouldn't be, did I add reps or did I add weight or did I progress on paper? It should be, did I send the right stimulus for progress? Did I send enough stimulus for the results that I want? Did I give it my best? Did I push my best? Am I recovering better between sessions? Am I staying consistent? So it doesn't matter you progress if you're not staying consistent, because we need a consistent stimulus and signal sent to our muscles, and we need the right signal sent to our muscles, which goes back to what I've already said before with the effective training and how we train for intensity, because it can be intense but not effective. So if you have all of that in check and you're just showing up to give your best, that is all that needs to happen. It's just being okay with that too. And by that, I mean having just a little more patience with delayed gratification, which is the best part of all of this. It teaches us that, because it's more than just a logbook. It's so much more. And learning how to solidify your mind-muscle connection allows you to build more bricks on top of it. And I do want to say that this is way more pronounced with legs, because our legs can handle so much more. But with legs, everything we do, even our upper body, everything is a full body. When you're doing squats, it's a full body exercise. Your upper body needs tension. When you're doing delts and shoulders and bench and all that kind of stuff, you need leg drive and core control and everything to be really tight to drive the force from your feet, if you're sitting down, to your butt on the seat, to your hands with whatever you're doing. And if you're lying down, it's the same sort of thing. And if you're standing, it's the same sort of thing. Like, everything needs to be tight, but your legs and lower body will always be stronger than your upper body, which is also why you need to work on your core, because your core is always going to be a great component. Do your homework with your bracing. But when it comes to your legs, we need to really get that brace, because our legs can be really damn strong. And it's usually our back, our thorax, as in like our upper back, our thoracic, like all this upper body area that tends to be the bottleneck. And if you shove it off as a waste of time, or you don't want to train your chest because, oh, my boobs, pressing is important. It's just, you might need a variation of it if you have a boob job, but otherwise, training chest. Don't try to speed things up by adding less effective movements and endless volume of legs. More isn't better. Better is better. Progress isn't adding more. It's in improving, doing better, not more sets, not more reps. It's just doing better and getting stronger over time. That is what creates the physique that we want. We really need to reframe what progress means, because it isn't linear. It's multifaceted. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't. Focus on your key lifts. Too many people add in random ass shit, which kind of brings me to the next mistake. Gimmicks. Falling for gimmicks. Random exercises that say that they target the abs more or the glutes more. I get sent so many things saying, is this a good thing? And it's for the abs. It's like, no, you have everything that you need. Maybe we can train your core more and you can learn to brace more. The fundamental thing to learn before anything to do with abs is to learn how to brace your core and use your core. It's huge. Focus on the right exercises. Don't go for gimmicks. The length and range, like I mentioned, they're way more effective than the shortened ones, like hip thrusts. But hip thrusts allow you to get in more volume. But if you're only training 3 days a week, I would say that hip thrusts are not something you should have on your program unless there's a specific reason for it. Some people do have it for having knee issues. Focus on big bang for buck exercises if you don't have a lot of time in the gym. Not go looking for other fancy exercises online. They're trying to shove fancy shit into the algorithm so that they get clicks and views. And the next mistake is shaming the Smith squat, or shaming machines in general, neglecting them. But I would also say don't over rely on them, because it's really important to use dumbbells and barbells as well, as it allows the natural movement pattern and it teaches you how to engage your whole body. The reason why I love machines is because you can send them to failure. So if you're using machines, you send yourself to failure. You're not going to really injure yourself all that much unless you haven't done the foundational work. 2 more mistakes, but I kind of already summed it up in the other ones. You don't want to add in more cardio, because if you are prioritizing cardio over building muscle, you're not going to see the changes that you want. And if you haven't yet built sufficient muscle, I would argue that cardio isn't really going to be that beneficial for you. Otherwise, get your steps up, get walking. Don't put it before strength training. Only add it in if you have sufficient recovery and not in a deficit if muscle is something you want to protect. And unless you've already built up quite a big base of it. then you'll have to be really careful where you do put it, because once again, it's what do you want to prioritize? Especially if you aren't overly obese, all of this becomes so much more important. We are in a place where protecting muscle and building muscle is going to be a huge factor. And the older we are, the more we want to protect it. Training isn't about doing more, it's about doing better. Reframing progress and reframing your journey to what your body can do, to what's absolutely possible for you to start achieving. Are you always having back pain? Are you having knee pain? Do you get niggles here and there? Progress is getting yourself to a place where you're not going to be sore all the time and injured all the time, because that's going to set you back and slow your metabolism down by a fuck ton, because that's going to impact how you move and everything day to day. It's going to impact how you sleep. It could even impact your food if you get emotional about it. It can impact so much. So focusing on having yourself feel better, move better, have more mobility is going to enhance so much more of your life. I actually wrote something down here that I want to bring up here. When your body moves better, you train better. When you train better, you get better results in less time. Stronger muscles give you a leaner look without constant dieting. But that's going to be for next week's podcast. Muscle is the only thing that shapes your body. So chase strength, and you'll change your body in ways that deficiting never will. And carbs are a huge part of this. More energy is more consistency. And it's hard to do that when you're trying to train your ass into oblivion, underfuel it, undercarb it, help your body move better, learn how to brace so that you can have better workouts, faster progress, get the results you want in your legs, because now you can actually hit depth and get full range of motion. Because you're doing everything right and you're focusing on fueling your performance, you're going to have more energy, more consistency, less frustration. And now guess what? You stop chasing the scale. You stop worrying about smaller, pants this, pants that, and all of a sudden nothing was changing, but now you're stronger. You're deadlifting almost twice your body weight and your whole physique has changed. It's just that it didn't take 6 months. It took a couple of years, but holy shit, everything's changed. And it sounds like 2 years, what the fuck? But how long have you been trying so far? The more you try to say, I don't have a lot of time yet left, I already wasted time, I need to catch up on missed time, progress, whatever, you're only making it longer for yourself. I should have done that before, because now it's too late. I need to figure out how to blah, 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 blah. I love you all. I hope this helps. And don't forget to reach out to me if there's anything else that you want me to discuss. If you want me to assess your current training or see if what you're doing is effective, reach out to me on Instagram. Because once you get this right, it's crazy. It is literally crazy how much can change. Don't use training as your fat loss tool or your leaning out tool. Use it as your building tool. Use it as your tool of skill. It is getting a bachelor's degree. It's getting a master's in physique enhancement, rep by rep, set by set, session by session. And over the programs, over the months, you'll gain so much skill that it honestly gives you so much more confidence. And when you feel in control of your results, everything changes. And you start to see the bullshit in all the stuff online that you never saw before. I love yous. Please give me a 5-star rating.